The film opens with Walter Hale rushing through a Chinatown market, being followed by a group of people. Walter found a chance and managed to slip a secret package he was carrying into a mailbox. After making sure his followers hadn't seen him send the package, Walter was relieved. He then tried to run from his pursuers. But tragically, just as he was about to cross the street, a van with no license plate hit him instantly. Walter died right there. The next day, we meet Walter's eldest son, James Hale, played by Dave Bautista, who we already know well. He was training new recruits to hold their breath underwater. However, the soldiers gave up too quickly. Seeing his trainees fail to stay in the water for long, James was very disappointed with their performance. Soon after, a soldier arrived and delivered the bad news that James's father had passed away. James went to confirm his father's death. Instead of looking sad when he saw the body, his expression changed only for a second, then went back to normal. Understandably, James hadn't spoken to his father in a long time. The same was true for his younger half-brother, Johnny. They hadn't talked in 10 years. At home, his wife Layla was shocked to hear about her father-in-law's death. Layla urged James to call his brother, but James refused. He was sure his brother Johnny wouldn't care because they had a bad history. Now we move to Oklahoma. Here we see the youngest son, Johnny Hale, played by Jason Momoa. He plays a police officer whose life is a total mess. After disappearing for several days, busy with unknown things, he arrived home to find his girlfriend Valentina packing up to leave him. He immediately feared losing her and tried everything to calm her down. But Valentina didn't want to get emotional or care anymore. She was tired of being treated like a maid by Johnny. Today was even her birthday. He had promised to take her to Hawaii for a break, but instead, he disappeared without a trace. What woman wouldn't be tired of a guy like this? Valentina was completely fed up. This girl who was good at car racing finally left, and Johnny was officially single. After the breakup, Johnny went back to his old habit, drinking. He drank to mourn his single status. Then Johnny got a call from his sister-in-law, Layla, about his father's death. Johnny, who naturally didn't care about his father, refused to attend the burial in Hawaii. However, everything changed when his house was suddenly raided by 2 Japanese Yakuza men. A sharp machete was pressed against his neck. One wrong answer meant he would lose his life. These thugs were looking for a package sent by Walter. This confused Johnny, who had just heard his father died. They hadn't spoken since Johnny was a teenager, making a sudden package strange, 20 years too late. But the Japanese thug didn't care. Speaking poor English, he threatened Johnny to hand over his father's shipment. A large knife pressed against Johnny's throat was ready to send him to the next world to meet Walter if he didn't reveal the package's location. But Johnny was a cop, so naturally he knew how to fight. Seeing an opportunity, he beat the thugs until they were badly bruised. Seeing they were losing, one thug dropped the only photo Johnny had of his late mother, his mother's most valuable keepsake. That's where John's anger exploded. He beat the thug severely without mercy. After all the Yakuza were knocked out, this incident made Johnny realize that something was wrong with his father's death, and he decided to fly to Hawaii to find the truth. James and his wife held a simple funeral for their father. Even though they hadn't spoken for 10 years, he was still their father. James and his family attended, devoutly listening to a local Hawaiian pastor's prayer. Suddenly, Johnny arrived, dressed in black like a biker gang member. The atmosphere became very awkward because James and Johnny had an old grudge, especially since they had different mothers, which is why one was bald and the other blonde. The governor of Hawaii, Peter Maho, an old friend of Walter's, also showed up to offer a few words of comfort. During the family gathering, John immediately said that their father did not die in an accident, but was murdered. Hearing this, James grew more skeptical, believing his brother just wanted to cause trouble again, like 10 years ago when Johnny beat up a gangster to avenge his mother's death. They ended up arguing. Not wanting their fight to be heard by the children, James chose to take Johnny outside to talk privately. On the beach, James accused Johnny of just looking for trouble, just like before when their mother died and he accused a local gang of the crime. Now their father had died and Johnny was blaming someone else again, this time the Yakuza. Seeing that his brother didn't believe him and kept bringing up the past, Johnny felt disappointed and chose to leave. Johnny fled to a bar but ran into bad luck. The bartender gave him a bonus drink that made him completely dizzy. When he woke up, John was dragged before Kai, a local mafia boss. Kai's gang was the one Johnny had fought previously, and Johnny had a dark history of killing Kai's men. Johnny was then threatened to be chopped up if he didn't leave Hawaii in 7 days. Although his face was cut as a warning, Johnny's spirit did not break at all. The next day, the two brothers began their investigation. James checked his father's belongings and found the office key plus 12 suspicious random codes. Meanwhile, Johnny had already arrived at Walter's office. He checked the place and then a fat young man happened to sneak into the office like a thief. As soon as he saw Johnny, the young man, whose name was Pika, was shocked and ran away fast. Johnny tried to chase him, but surprisingly, this fat boy was incredibly nimble, like a chubby version of Jackie Chan. But of course, Johnny was smart. For a cop like him, catching Pika was not difficult. After Pika was caught, Johnny questioned him. It turned out Pika was Walter's trusted hacker for his detective work.
Walter wasn't a good detective either. He often blackmailed people with their secrets. Pika handled the technical and hacking side of things. It could be said Pika was actually a valuable asset to their late technologically illiterate father. Walter was so sneaky he had enemies in almost every neighborhood in Hawaii. Johnny immediately forced Pika to help him find Walter's killer. Meanwhile, James pursued another lead. He went to the scene where their father was hit to find CCTV footage. The camera belonged to an adult toy store, but the store clerks were arrogant. They refused to give the CCTV footage, even though James offered a lot of money as a bribe. James was finally forced to give them loving punches until they were all weak and helpless. Back at Walter's office, the teamwork between Johnny and Pika started to pay off. They found a secret map Walter had hidden. This was no ordinary map. It was the design for a huge, mysterious project. Johnny quickly reported to Nani, who was the governor's assistant and Peter's niece. She worked at City Hall, so she definitely had access to this type of project. When James arrived at his father's office, he was surprised that Johnny had made so much progress. Finally, the older brother admitted that it was possible their father had actually been executed and not just tragically hit and run.
They then watched the CCTV footage together. It was very clear that the van fully intended to hit their father. It had no license plate and it didn't even brake. This was definitely planned murder. While they were busy discussing on the street, they were suddenly ambushed by a car full of criminals who shot at them brutally. Johnny, who was used to intense situations like that, immediately fired back until the attacker's car exploded into pieces. The explosion was so powerful that James's car was also ruined. Although Johnny argued it was all to save their lives, James was still annoyed with his little brother. New information came from Nani. The secret map belonged to Marcus Robichaux, a rich boss who maintained a Yakuza group in Hawaii. Upon investigation, the mysterious project wasn't just about building shops or simple homes for the public. It was a huge casino project. Of course, this project was opposed by the local community because it would certainly displace them. Coincidentally, Marcus was holding a fundraising party at his house tomorrow. The two brothers decided to sneak into the party to find information. Before the party, they stopped at the project site. They met locals protesting the development. The locals told them that some government officials were trying to steal their land for the casino project. It proved that the mafia always had connections inside the government. During this chaos, they received news that the police had found a body and a truck used to hit Walter. The truck was registered to a company named Nakamura, a sports equipment business. This information was a vital key to their investigation. The fundraising party began. The three of them snuck in smoothly. James and Johnny looked too big to be waiters, but at such a crowded party, no one paid attention to this detail. This is where Johnny met a beautiful woman who was exactly his type. The flirty guy immediately went to work charming her with his silly style. Johnny was good at talking to women, and they hit it off quickly. But Johnny was shocked when the woman, named Monica, turned out to be the wife of the mafia boss Marcus. He was even more surprised to learn that Monica had hired Walter to find proof that Marcus was cheating. Monica couldn't stand Marcus anymore and wanted a divorce. She figured if she had proof of his affair, she could get a bigger share of the assets during the split. Monica then asked Johnny to meet her at her apartment the next day. Meanwhile, James's face looked scary even when he smiled, making him a poor waiter. He was forced to wash dishes in the kitchen. While he was washing, a Yakuza member who looked high came in. He asked for a plate, immediately dumped out putri powder, and snorted the powder using a business card. The business card showed the Japanese man's name, Nakamura. On an island as small as Hawaii, there probably wasn't another Yakuza named Nakamura. This name matched the company that owned the car that hit their father. While they were busy mingling, the two big guys were finally caught. Marcus's bodyguards exposed their cover, and they were invited to meet Marcus. A heated argument followed, where Marcus admitted that he and his wife had been spying on each other using Walter's services. Marcus then warned them not to be too nosy, saying their lives were at stake. After that, the two brothers were kicked out of the party. The next day, when Johnny went to meet Monica at her apartment for more information, he found her dead on top of a car. Certain that Marcus was behind this, Johnny immediately went into rage mode and fought Rico's men alone at Rico's house. He was outnumbered though and was captured by Marcus's bodyguards. Marcus then handed Johnny over to the police and he was held in a cell. The following day, James arrived to pick up his brother, his face full of emotion. James felt Johnny's approach was too reckless and wouldn't solve anything. An argument was unavoidable, and the two brothers ended up fighting fiercely on the roadside. Between the punches, John finally confessed that he was hurt because James had sent him far away from home 10 years ago, right when he was completely broken after losing their birth mother. But maybe letting out emotions was necessary. After the fight, their hearts felt lighter. All the tension was gone. James finally told Johnny that the reason he kicked Johnny out 10 years ago was to save his brother's life. At that time, Johnny was a target for local gangsters because he had carelessly killed some people. Hearing James apologize and admit he was the only family left, Johnny's heart melted. The deadly duo officially made peace and agreed to work together to find out who was behind their father's death. A breakthrough came when Valentina, Johnny's ex-girlfriend, called. She said she found a package Walter left at Johnny's house in Oklahoma. Inside was a mysterious flash drive.
After trying every way to convince her, Johnny finally persuaded Valentina to bring the flash drive to Hawaii, thinking she could have a vacation too.
As soon as Valentina arrived in Hawaii, the hacker, Pika, got to work. It was a crypto account needing 12 secret codes. Pika nearly gave up, as it seemed impossible to open without a password. Luckily, James remembered a piece of paper he found among Walter's things. It had a group of odd words that might be the password. But just as they were about to open the treasure, they were attacked on the road by a helicopter and a team of thugs. Fortunately, James's skills as a former Navy SEAL hadn't rusted. He managed to shoot down the helicopter until it exploded. When they checked the crypto account, the contents were shocking. It held a balance of $2 million. And guess whose name the account was under? Governor Peter, the man who claimed to be their father's good friend. A nasty scandal was revealed. Peter and Marcus had been working together to steal community land to build a casino. Walter was killed because he accidentally found out about this dirty plan while investigating Marcus's affair. The conflict peaked when Marcus kidnapped James's wife Layla and Peter's niece Nina to use as hostages in exchange for the crypto account.
Without wasting time, James brought out his secret weapon collection, which even stunned Johnny. That night, they stormed Marcus's base like a special forces unit. The guards were brutally killed one by one. James, whose emotions had hit the breaking point, faced Nakamura. The Yakuza thugs were wiped out, and for Nakamura specifically, James executed a final, brutal move on the cocky thug. Meanwhile, Johnny chased Marcus, who was trying to escape. The mafia boss was skilled in karate and managed to beat John badly for a moment. But Rico forgot that Johnny was a tricky cop. Before finishing him off, Johnny revealed that he had pulled the pin on a grenade kept on Marcus's shelf. Marcus exploded like fireworks, while John was thrown into the sea. Luckily, James quickly jumped in to save his drowning brother. The next day, Governor Peter was finally arrested by the police, though he still insisted he was innocent. The problem was solved, but the surprises weren't over. Kai, the local mafia boss, showed up on the beach to pay his respects because the brothers had cleaned up the trash in Hawaii. He even gave them a piece of paper listing the real name of the person who killed Johnny's mother years ago. Instead of going out to take new revenge, Johnny chose to burn the paper. He realized that revenge would only create more revenge. Johnny was already very grateful that he could return to his family. With $2 million in hand, the two of them decided to retire from revenge and start enjoying a luxurious and happy life with their extended family.